Alright, cool. Alright, so we're on this chapter 3 part. I appreciate it, Zell. Yeah, we'll have to bring on sunshine too. Alright. Throughout the journey to Paris, Dr. Fasanelli stopped frequently to gather herbs and began to teach the brothers how to identify them as they traveled. Valerian, peppermint, camille, I don't know, golden seal, as well as many other herbs used in his medicines and poultices. By the time they reached Paris, the cart was full of various medicines, and both Carvaux and Corvin had begun their training in the healing arts in earnest. Who's Aenon? Do I know Aeon? Corvin, my boys, welcome to Paris. Some of the arts and King Philip the Sixth, I think that's 6. Dr. Fasanelli announced, much to the astonishment of the brothers, whose quiet walk had silenced completely as they rode through the city. Neither had ever seen a city, much less so many people all in one place. A towering structure could be seen in the building process. Doctor, what is that over there? It is huge. Corvo asked inquisitively. The doctor looks to see what he is talking about. Ah, that Corvo would be the Notre Dame Cathedral. It's not completed yet, but I've heard tell that they hope to be finishing soon. The cathedral disappeared from sight as they turned down a street that was much darker and much narrower. What seemed like endless noise and clattering on cobblestone streets finally came to a halt in front of an unassuming building. It was a large building for the area, and when the doctor pulled into the covered stable area, the brothers were staring around themselves in silence and shock. Rain, how are you doing? How's your Saturday? I seen your message in Discord that you're going to be streaming soon. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Because I've been wanting to stop in there. Yes, I'm doing well. Today was kind of crazy. So I usually stream at 3 and I just now got on. So here, I know that you've been off, but I'll go ahead and give you a shout out though. There we go. Oh my goodness. Yeah, of course. We just started a new book last night, so we didn't get very far. We're still on chapter 3, so it's very early. And then there's a puzzle if you want to work with everybody on the puzzle while I read. Alright. Where was I? Alright boys, let's get the medicine into the prep room. We have lots of work to do. Now Corvin, the stallion can go in that stall over there. He motions to an empty stall, before turning to Corvo. Unhitch the other horses and then both of you are to help me with preparations. Soon I will have you do it on your own, but I will teach you the first time. He picked up a few bundles of the herbs and went inside, leaving the boys in the new stable. Corvin, can you believe our luck? Corvo said with a bit more excitement than he had in a long while. Corvin looked up at him and replied, "Yes, indeed, Corvo. The doctor seems to be a good man." Corvo nods. "This is what we both wanted, remember? We spoke of this when we were little kids." Corvin nods. "Do not screw this up, Corvin," he says as his voice grows cold with a hint of threat in it. Corvin hears this and narrows his eyes. "I would never, Corvo. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for those of us with beginnings like ours. I know you doubt me. You always have. You will see me one day that you were wrong to doubt me." Corvin says, matching the coldness, but with a bit of a growl that Corvo had never heard from his brother before. As quick as it was heard, it disappeared. Corvin finished taking care of the stallion and goes to help Corvo with the tack. They get the tack put away and carry in the last of the herbs. The rest of the evening was, as well as the next several weeks, are filled with sorting and drying herbs, as well as creating dry poultice that would be later activated with water. Many of the tasks were repetitive and very rarely made sense. The doctor had a tendency to ask random questions to each brother to test their knowledge of the plants. Questions like, "What does this do? How would you treat an affected wound? Stop bleeding?" etc. Let me get a drink here. Sorry. I'm drinking a Coke, so that was my can. Give me 1 second. Alright, so winter 1338 to 1339. Yeah, sorry. Like, I never realized how sensitive the mic picks up on stuff until, like, recently, so. The constant repetition was wearing at times for the brothers, so the day the doctor started to take them on house calls was a very exciting time for them. They had waited well over a year to get to see the doctor work in action. "What do you think we will be doing, Corvin?" Corvo asked, unusually excited. It was an excitement that, though a bit unusual, was infectious and carried over to Corvin. "I'm not entirely sure, Corvo. It'll probably be a poultice or... Boys, get in here and help me carry out the patient. And don't forget those gloves," Dr. Fasinelli said, holding the door for them. They crossed the threshold into a room that reminded them so much of home. But that wasn't what caused them to stop. The patient was covered in oozing sores, and the smell that filled the room was that of rotting corpses. The smell instantly caused both brothers to gag a bit, but a quick glance at the raised eyebrow of the doctor silenced any protest about to come out of the brothers. With a bit of struggle to control the gag reflex, both Corvo and Corvin picked up the patient's sores and all to carry to the wagon. But the doctor's home, the patient was examined much closer after a cloth cleaning. "Unfortunately, that foot will have to come off, James. It is either that or you will die from the bad humorous infection affecting that foot. Corvo, my boy, fetch that knife set. The quicker this is off, the better. Corvin, fetch the bandages and heat some water." Both Corvo and Corvin rushed to do as told. As bad it was for the patient, the brothers were rather excited to see the Dr. Fasinelli do some real healing work. Once everything was ready, the doctor said, "Now, I really need your strength, boys. Hold James' shoulders back, so this could likely kill him." With both Corvo and Corvin holding James down, the doctor began his work at amputating the foot. Every slice of the knife brought out an agonizing scream from James. The sound of slicing flesh and bone, the squelching and splashing of the foot fascinated both brothers. A sickening crack signaled the final severing stroke of the blade. Dr. Fasinelli packed in a poultice into the bleeding wound before skillfully wrapping it up before James could bleed out. You know, I forgot that I need to put the trigger warnings. Sorry, guys. I'll have to do that. When everything was said and done, and James rested somewhat peacefully, Dr. Fasinelli pulled the brothers aside. Good work today, from both of you. The patient James will live, it looks like. You have both made me proud. Not many can handle doing what is necessary to save a life. But so far, you both have shown skills beyond what any apprentice I have ever seen. Clean up and rest. You are going to need it. Corvo and Corvin both went and did exactly that. After a night of rest, the following day dawned all too soon. Up and at 'em, boys. We have another long day ahead of us. A bit of preparation for winter, and also to see about a new illness reported out by the porch. The doctor states as Corvin sits up, propped by his elbows. Corvo puts on his boots. The doctor turns to Corvin. When we get to the port, there is a peddler with some strange items from the Far East. I need you to obtain some, whatever they might be. Some kind of new medicine, I think. So you will need your horse. That perked Corvin up as he hurries and finishes, getting ready, and then leaves the room. Now, Corvo, you and I will investigate this new illness that was reported out there. I want to see what you think of it and how you react to it. Corvo looked at Dr. Fasinelli with a calculating curiosity. He twitches his head slightly as the thoughts begin to run. He is trying to figure out why on this day, of all days, the doctor would, for one, separate his brother from him, much less trust him to make the lead on a new illness. But that was an answer he would need to find out later. For now, it was time to go. Oh, thanks, Panda. Yeah, I need to do the automatic, through either Streamlabs or Elements. Upon reaching the stables, Corvin already had hitched up the horses to the wagon, but was currently caressing the saddle sitting upon the stallion. He was a bit in shock and confused by the appearance of what to Corvo looked to be a new saddle. Both brothers looked at the doctor, somewhat confused by the appearance. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you, Corvin. The stallion is yours now. The saddle and tack is a gift. I need my apprentice to be able to travel on the errands I require. With that, he motions to the other stall in which a chestnut gelding stood. Corvo, that one is yours. So I suggest you both mount up so that we might get going. Sounds good, Panda. And off they went, both brothers, on their respective horses, followed behind Dr. Fasinelli. As they traveled down the road, the brothers spoke to each other. I don't think I ever expected a horse for either of us, Corvin, Corvo said to his brother, who more or less ignored Corvo beyond a head nod. I mean, come on, Corvin. We went from being orphans to being apprentices under a doctor, no less. And you He gestures to Corvin. Well, you, despite everything you have done to cause trouble. He pauses to make sure Corvin is listening. You finally got your stallion. Corvin responds by patting the stallion's withers before looking to Corvo again. Oops. And you thought I would screw this up, Corvo? You've always doubted me and my abilities, even with the herbs. Well, you almost, Corvo tries to say. No, Corvo, I did not. I corrected the error on the herbs before they could be damaged. See, there you go again with that doubt. He shakes his head. When are you finally going to just trust me to do what is needed? Corvo asks, but when Corvo seemingly hesitated on his response, Corvo turns away and urges the stallion forward so that he is in front of the wagon. Corvo groans with frustration, but does not pursue Corvin. He only rides up so that he is even with Dr. Fasinelli when he is beckoned forward by the doctor. Corvo. He is right, you know. The doctor starts, but when Corvo says nothing, he continues on. Corvin can sense that you don't trust him, at least not fully anyway. He does try in his own way, maybe not in a way that makes sense to you, but all he wants is his brother Corvo. Corvo sighs and shakes his head. He is always screwing up opportunities though, taking off when he shouldn't, and it was a lot worse on the horse farm. I've taken more than enough beatings on his behalf. The doctor nods, understanding of Corvo's explanation. He does still show some of that even under my mentorship, Corvo, even now, but that's still not a reason to not trust him. He has shown vast improvements, hence why I entrusted him to get the strange items from the peddler. I am confident he will find some very useful items. All he needs is a chance to show it. Even though there's a chance he could screw it all up for you, Doctor, Corvo asks inquisitively. I can't say it right now. Inquisitively. There you go. To which the doctor nods yes. Even if he does mess up with this opportunity, just like I am doing with you. Corvo pulls his head back in surprise. Yes, Corvo, I am testing your knowledge as well as his. You show more tendency to experiment with newer things, and this new illness will give you a chance to show me what you can do regardless of the outcome. A small moment of silence passes in which Corvo allows Corvo to process what the doctor said in his mind. All I ask for you in this moment is that with concerning your brother, let him have his chance, Corvo. Let him show you without interference. He may surprise you yet. Corvo, wanting to trust the doctor's words, sigh before saying quietly, All right, I'll give him that, doctor. And now we're on chapter 4. Chapter 4. Sorry, I am eating. I'm still working on my McFlurry. Oh, there's an ad coming up. There's an ad. Alright. So. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so basically we just read that the doctor has been like teaching them and training them teaching them about like different herbs and illnesses and all that. And he has now given a horse to both boys, basically, because he needs them to do like errands and stuff like that for him. So I think that was like the gist of it. All right. So we will continue to chapter 4, the port town. Oh, you know what? There you go. Now we don't have to look at the chapters. It was about early afternoon when the trio arrived to the town. A brisk day with a gentle breeze blowing in off the sea. It was very apparent from the smell that this was a fishing port. The smell of fish and sea spray very strong, as was the smell that any city or port of this size carried with sewage being in the streets. All right, Corvin, come here. The doctor calls to Corvin, who approached. Take these coins and find the peddler from the Silk Road by the name of Adrian Del Fontes. He and his daughter were supposed to have brought me in some items very hard to find around these parts. Get them for me. Corvo and I have other things to attend to at this time. He hands Corvin the pouch of coins and drives down the road a bit before stopping to wait for Corvo. Corvo rides up to Corvin to pass him, but stops just before him. Corvin looks at him, fully expecting to get an earful from his brother. So he says nothing, despite the surprise at the trust the doctor placed in him. The brothers stare at each other before Corvo says, "Best of luck, my brother, until we see each other again," he says, carefully putting a hand on Corvin's shoulder for a moment. This gesture was something Corvin had not seen for a while from Corvo, so it caught him off guard. Corvo urged his horse onward, but did not hear Corvin's reply of, "You as well." Corvin. So I guess we're in the perspective of Corvin. The lack of response further from Corvin sat uneasy with Corvin. From Corvo sat uneasy with Corvin. But the doctor had given him a job to do, and Corvin would be damned if he did not try to achieve what was asked. So he urged his own horse on and headed into town to find this peddler from the Silk Road. As he rode on, he placed the pouch of coins in a saddlebag to find it was full. So he stopped for a moment to make adjustments. The saddlebag held 2 items that caused Corvin's breath to catch. A wide-brimmed hat and a coat, as well as a note from the doctor. "Corvin, I have been waiting to give these to you until you have proved that you were ready for the responsibility that comes with it. Wear it with pride, but never forget where you come from and those who helped you get there. I will see you when you return. Sincerely, Dr. Henry Fasinelli." Seth, how are you doing? I wasn't expecting you to come because I know like you mentioned that your internet was down. Is it fixed yet? I just read that today. There's no way it's fixed. Now it's like I'm looking. Now I gotta look. Okay, that is perfectly fine. I appreciate it. Have a fun game night. Alright. Corvo watched as his brother stopped messed with the saddlebag before continuing onward. Seeing him put the hat and coat on was met with feelings of pride and a twinge of jealousy. No such gift had been made to him like that, at least not yet. But nor had he had the chance to check his own saddlebags either. He had not gotten the time to do so just yet. He was busy with the doctor at the immediate moment. Corvo turned back to continue on, only to find that the doctor had been watching him in turn. Corvo, I know that might have been hard to watch, but in due time you will get yours as well. The doctor states, to which Corvo nods. I will admit you did well showing the restraint that you did, and for that I am proud, Corvo. Now come, let's continue on, for we, or rather you, have a patient awaiting you. Have you given thought on how you will approach the situation? He asked inquiringly. The question came as no surprise to Corvo, but it was one that he had not expected so soon. He thought carefully for a moment. Doctor, you have given me no other information about the situation other than it is an unusual illness. Nothing about symptoms or what the patient had done prior to the illness. He said carefully, I would need more information before I could even try to pass judgment at this point on treatment. The doctor nods his approval. Good to know that you do not jump to conclusions. I have had other apprentices do that. So here is what I do know about the situation, Corvo. The patient is a young man, a fisherman. Been sick for a few days now. Has pustules that have not burst, those being red in color and rather small currently. No disease that we are currently aware of. Corvo nods and is deep in thought about the situation. Pustules are treated normally with a hot poultice, consisting of rosemary and mint with a touch of calendula. Perhaps a treatment of leeches is the need should arise. The doctor nods approvingly. Very nice, Corvo. We do have that in the wagon. Should we go see the patient? He motions for Corvo to lead on. Corvin. After asking several folks as to where this peddler might be, Corvin was directed to an unassuming stall on the far outskirts of the marketplace. He dismounts and leads the horse through the crowds towards the stall, where an older man stood leaning against the cart smoking a long-stemmed pipe. Can I help you, young man? He asked as Corvin looks at the items on the cart. Yes, the doctor I am apprenticed under sent me saying that you might have some unusual items from the Silk Road. Items that might be used in the healing arts. Corvin inquired. And who might your master be? He asked, not very impressed with the young man before him, barely out of boyhood. The good Dr. Henry Fusinelli of Bolgavel, my good sir, Corvin stated somewhat proudly. The peddler looks him up and down, not giving anything away as of yet. If the good doctor wants my wares, then why did you come instead of him doing so in person? He questioned Corvin. Corvin's head tilted slightly to the side as he worked over the peddler in his mind. The doctor had other errands to run at this time. So as his apprentice, that task falls to me. We would be most displeased if he were to find out that you refuse service to his apprentice, an apprentice who was on an errand on his behalf. There is a subtle hint of threat in Corvin's voice. He was not happy that this peddler stood in his way of achieving what the doctor had requested of him. Calm yourself, boy. There is no need to get feisty about it. The peddler chuckles, much to the confusion of Corvin. I think I know what the doctor might like. He usually does ask for new items when I come back on the Silk Road. Let me go get it for you. Corvin stays where he is, but watches this peddler closely as he does not trust him fully. You're doing good. I appreciate it, Panda. A short while later, the peddler returned back with a few items wrapped securely in cloth and in 2 small crates. Did the doctor tell you how much was to be expected to be paid for the items? The peddler asked. No, but nor have you shown me the items in question. How should I know that you are giving the doctor a fair value in items if I have not seen the items you are giving? He asked matter-of-factly. Very true. Smart boy. Twitch bot. I mean, I think you're already there. The peddler proceeds to unwrap several bundles of herbs, some of which Corvin recognized and others were foreign to him. A few knives and a crate of jars containing some odd liquids. 75 francs? Total, boy. He was holding out his hand expectantly. Corvo narrowed his eyes and replied with preposterous. The items here are worth no more than 30 francs. Easy. The peddler laughed. Do you think I was born yesterday, boy? No matter, since I like your ballsy attitude, I will tell you what I'll do. 60 francs for the lot. 35, offered Corvin. 55, the peddler countered offer. 40, 53, the peddler. Wait, 40 Corvin, 53 peddler. Corvin was irritated now, as this man was keeping him from the task at hand. Corvin turns away, trying to control the anger building inside. He was quickly failing that attempt. He needed to get these items and not a rip-off price that the peddler was trying. With a quick glance around the semi-empty streets, he makes one last attempt to make a proper deal. With a low voice that should have betrayed the danger of the anger within, he put the last offer out. 45 and not one more. Being turned around, Corvin could not see the peddler, but he heard the answer given. No. Corvin clenched his fist as he started to shake with anger. Anger at the situation and at the man who was trying to be responsible for why he failed this simple task. He turned around to face him. No? And why might that be? You seem to know the doctor well enough, and yet you would deny him the supplies he needs? Give me 1 second. I gotta get a drink, of course. Oh my goodness. I gotta type something too. VJ, how are you doing? How's your Saturday? Sorry, I'm typing real quick. It's been a little hectic, to be honest. I was an hour late to my stream, so that was fun. Okay, so I'm in the process of needing to get more candy. So I have Snickers and Hershey's. And I have a peanut butter Snickers. What did I say? Didn't I say an hour and a half? Dealer's choice. Alright, I like peanut butter, so I'm going with the peanut butter for sure. Thanks, VJ. I'm gonna try to get some different kind of candy probably this weekend. Oh yeah, I was an hour and a half. Yes, definitely. Granted, I do have a McFlurry right by me that I've been eating on too, so so there's that. Alrighty, thank you. Now I got you. So we just started a new book last night. We're not very far in. We're on chapter 4. So yeah. Basically we've been reading about some little boys that became an orphan, and they are apprentices for a doctor now. And that's basically like the major stuff that we've learned so far. Alright. Oh, hold on. I gotta close that out. Oh yeah, VJ, there is a puzzle. The link, it's pinned at the top there. It's just an option if people want something to do while I'm reading or whatever. So everybody's kind of working together on this puzzle. So yeah. Alright. I say no, boy, because the good doctor pays me in advance for the items. So put away your anger. You are not the first apprentice he has sent my way, and you likely will not be the last. The peddler stated as he began to load the packages on the horse. The doctor does this to test his apprentices, to see if they can handle haggling for his goods. The last of the items was loaded up, and you, my boy, passed. But you should work on that anger of yours. It will get you into trouble otherwise. Corvin just stares at the peddler with a glare. And the francs I was given, he asks, and the peddler chuckles. Those he gave to you to see what you would do with it. You could use it to buy more supplies or food. Not really a right or wrong way for it. He laughs harder when Corvin rolls his eyes. Well, get back to the doctor. I am certain whatever errand he is on will require some of those items. Corvin mounts the horse and turns to go. Boy, what is your name? Corvin looks back and gives it to him. Well, Corvin, I look forward to seeing what kind of doctor you become. Corvin trots down the road to find the doctor and his brother. So, now we're in Corvo, which Corvin and Corvo are brothers. I've seen that the puzzles are it's getting pretty decent. This was it was a puzzle that, I don't know, like Sunshine and Bohemian chose at the book club that we did. So, I don't even remember what it was. Corvo and the doctor arrived a hut down by the water. Well, Corvo, let's go see our patient," the doctor said as he climbs off the wagon. He grabs his cane from the back before walking with Corvo to the door. Give me a second. I think it's like 300, 310, something like that. Somewhere around there. Last time, well, the last puzzle was the same amount of pieces, and I think it took them about 2 hours with both of them doing it. So we'll see. That would be cool. Like, I don't know if you could do like a time thing. Make it a little fun. He grabs his cane from the back before walking with Corvo to the door. Once they are inside the fishing hut, the smell of illness was definitely apparent. Looking around the hut, it was obvious this person was about as poor as any could be. That this young man was alone and probably had been for a long while. Corvo glanced at the patient and then the doctor. "This patient has no family, does he?" The doctor glances up and shakes his head, confirming the suspicion. No, hold on. "No, this young man does not. Hence why he was chosen for you, Corvo." He looks at the doctor questioningly. "Corvo, this is a patient who needs your help. Whether he lives or dies is entirely up to you and your questions." Realization hits Corvo like a rock slide on a hill. Here was a real chance to get some real practice. "All the decisions are yours. You hold all the information about the patient," the doctor said before handing him the cane. Corvo takes it and approaches the patient and using the cane, he takes a closer look at the patient. The doctor had told him everything indeed. He looks at every aspect of the strange illness. The pustules, the rash, breathing, all before heading back out to the wagon to get herbs for poultice and the jar of leeches. Before returning to the patient to begin trying to save the patient's life. After some time, the doctor leaves Corvo in the hut to finish his work, and this is where Corvin finds him. I got the supplies you requested from the peddler," he said as he dismounted before giving the items to the doctor. "And your francs." The doctor looks at him impressed as he counts it. You didn't spend any of it," he states, to which Corvin says, "No, it was not mine." The doctor chuckles before tossing the pouch of coins back to him. "They are now. Keep them." A loud scream of pain is heard from the hut, and Corvin rushes to go in, but the doctor stops him. "This is your brother's patient. Let him treat him how he sees fit. I trust him to do the right thing, just as I trusted you to do the right thing as well." Corvin steps back. "I wanted to thank you," Corvin started to say, "for the coat and hat." "You are most welcome, Corvin, though I must say you earned it," the doctor said. "Just as your brother is earning his today, should all go well." They sit on the wagon to await Corvo's exit and to see the result of his treatments. They waited all day, and it was well into evening before they heard anything but screams and groans of pain. But just as it was getting dark and the fire outside burning bright, the door to the hut creaked open slowly. Corvin stood up to greet his brother, who stepped into the light of the fire. And that was chapter 4. So now we're on chapter 5. Alright, so we basically just read that the doctor gave a test to both boys. Corvin had to basically go and haggle for some items, which he succeeded. And his brother had to do is treating a patient, and that's kind of what we're left at. We don't know if he passed the test or not. Yeah, like last night, that's what I was saying, is that last night it seemed like his chapters were shorter, but he says that they get longer, so I don't know. So yeah, I'm good up to like basically 2 hours. Dang it. Freaking advertisement. So yeah, so we're on chapter 5, which is called Changes. I have an idea for the channel. I have another idea. Alright. So we'll do chapter 5. Corvo stepped into the firelight, his tunic covered in dirt and blood, and who knew what else. His normally semi-clean hair was matted with sweat. The exhaustion in his body was obvious, but his face, though tired, also held triumph. Oh, it's just for like some basic giveaway stuff, but I haven't decided yet, so I don't want to say anything on it yet. So I feel like there was something else to say. Yeah. No problem. Okay. Corvo, the patient, the doctor asks him as he stands up and walks to him. Corvo looks at the doctor for a moment before glancing at Corvin and then back to the doctor. We'll leave, I think. The poultice were drained and poultice applied to the infection. A bit of blood letting to release the bad airs within the body as well. The doctor nods as he listened before motioning to the door. Care if I go check the patient? The doctor said, more as a statement and less a request as he goes inside the hut. Corvin approaches his brother and guides him to the wagon to rest for a spell. Handing him a leather skin full of wine, Corvin sits next to him and waits until Corvo has had a drink or two. The brothers sit in silence for a bit until Corvin tries to break the silence between them. Corvo, he starts and then gestures to the door. How did it go in there? He is met by a glance from the side, and then Corvo took another drink before looking at him fully. Things went well, Corvin, he replied simply, but when he noticed the look that Corvin gave him, he also said, What were you expecting me to say? All the bloody pus-filled details? As if the condition of my clothes don't tell you enough of that? He was starting to be a bit irritated, if not slightly jealous of his brother. Corvin, hearing the anger tone in his brother's voice confused him, as did Corvo pushing him away when earlier in the day Corvo had seemed happy about things. He did not understand what had changed with Corvo. All I wanted was to know how things went. When I found out what was going on, But Corvo snapped at him coldly, cutting him off entirely. Corvin, just shut up. It does not matter what happened, Corvo said a bit angrily. Corvin was taken aback by this sudden mood change and held up his hands in surrender, not that it did much good as Corvo continued on. You have always been a screw-up most of your life. You get your doctor's coat before me. The sheer idiocy of that is unimaginable. I have been the one to do the most work. He continues his rant, and all Corvin does is sigh and hop off the wagon to walk away. He is halfway to his horse when he realizes Corvo has stopped his rant and that the hut door was opening. Corvin turned slightly to watch the interaction between the doctor and Corvo. Corvo, I have news of your patient, the doctor started, and Corvo looked back from his brother that he had watched walk away and turned his attention to the doctor. Your patient will have some scarring, but based on what I have seen from your treatment methods, then your patient will survive. Congratulations, son. I think you have finally earned this. He grabbed the crate and hands it to Corvo. Corvin is by his horse watching, wanting to be closer, to be there for his brother. But he does not move from his spot. Corvo, on the other hand, is silent with surprise. Corvo, with the items within both you and your brother, Corvin can see patients on your own without direct supervision from me. You are still my apprentices, but this will give you so much more. Corvo opens the crate and finds a doctor's hat and coat. It makes him a bit speechless as this is what he wanted. Thank you, doctor, for your trust in me. The doctor grins and nods before walking to the wagon to grab some items and carry them into the hut. Corvo puts on his new coat and hat, reveling in the feeling it gave him. He cracked a rare smile before looking around for his brother, who he thought would share in this triumph with him. As he saw that Corvin was not near him, his smile began to fade. After a moment, he spots Corvin standing in the shadows by the water's edge, his back turned to Corvo. Corvo sighed and walked to Corvin's side. Corvo sighed and walked to Corvin's side. Corvin glanced at Corvo, but said nothing, choosing to stay silent, thinking it would make Corvo happy. It did not, as Corvo's expression twisted into a variety of expressions from annoyance to sadness to anger and in neutral, all in a matter of seconds. So we finally made it. Made it to something more than just a couple of orphan brothers. He grabbed Corvin's shoulder and gave it a squeeze, though nothing was said between them verbally. The unspoken bond between brothers was apparent between them as they walked back to the horses as doctors. So, fall of 1347. Many years had passed between the brothers becoming doctors and in this dreadful stormy night that found the brothers no longer boys, but rather young men with several years of medicine under their belts. Corvo had grown to be quite adept at amputation when the need arose. although he had become rather cold and callous as of late. He was relentless in his pursuits of his treatments of the various illnesses, and he had gained a reputation for it too. He still cared for his brother in his own way, despite a growing distance between them. A distance that was an endless source of frustration and oftentimes arguments for them. Sorry. Stop for a minute. Get a drink here. Drink, drink, drink. Drinkity drink. Alright. Corvin, on the other hand, had become quiet and more withdrawn. Some years prior, there had been an accident with some chemicals that had accidentally gotten mixed and had created a noxious gas that had enveloped Corvin. Many said that it was a witch who had made the noxious gas, but regardless of the real reason, it had been Corvo who had pulled Corvin out, saving his life in the process. However brief he had been in the gas cloud, the damage had been done. Corvo was never the same again. He almost always seemed to be fighting an eternal battle from within his own body. He had gained control over it for the most part. Nowadays, he could be found wandering the streets healing patients, but had also gained a reputation for dissections. It was on this particular day that several things were put into motion. From an ill-fated ship coming to port all the way to the rat infestations and hard winter that followed. But at this particular moment was one of those rare days that Corvo and Corvin actually got along as they sometimes did. This day they had gone into town for supplies, and they had seen the ship come in. A ship eerily quiet as they watched as it ran aground. Corvin and Corvo looked to each other in confusion. That was odd. Captain must be drunk, or the whole crew daft in the head, Corvo said, shaking his head, and drove the wagon the other way. Corvin said nothing beyond nodding his head agreeing. But something sat uneasy in the pit of his stomach. Something was wrong, he was sure of it. And though Corvo said nothing more, and most certainly not to his brother, he felt the same as a black rat scampered across the road, causing the horse to spoke and start. The horse neighed and stamped their feet. Corvo struggled to keep both of them under control as Corvin hopped off the wagon and jogged sharp hooves to grab at the halters of the spooked horses. Calm down, you silly bonehead. Corvin tried talking to them, but one of them reared, nearly lifting him completely off the ground. Corvin, get out of there! Corvo yelled to warn his brother, but as the rearing horse came down, a hoof clipped Corvin's ankle pretty good. Corvin let out a groan of pain and nearly fell, but by keeping a tight hold on the halters combined with his nearly entire body weight, finally calmed down the horses to where they were just nervous. Did they have what'd you call it? Halters back then? Because I didn't know that if they did. Once they were calm enough, Corvin pulled himself up and winced as he put weight on the now injured ankle. His step falters a bit and he catches himself on the side of the wagon. "Corvin, are you all right?" Corvo said, hopping down and walking quickly to his brother, pulling him up by his arm and supporting him till Corvin could be assisted to sit down on the wagon. Corvo looked at his brother with some worry. Although to any passing by Corvo's expression looked about as friendly as a cold-blooded crocodile from the Mediterranean. Corvo looked down at him. "Yeah, damn horse got my ankle though a bit." Corvin shifted his pant leg to reveal an ankle that was red and swollen. Corvo grabbed it, and despite the obvious discomfort and pain that it brought Corvin, he felt around the injury to check the damage. More than once, Corvin shot a glance or two at Corvo, but Corvo showed no sign that he cared about the glares and only looked up once done. "Well, you got lucky. It's not broken, Corvin, but you will need to be more careful." He thought for a moment. "This visit will be the one to go inside, and you stay with the wagon." He held up a hand to stop Corvin, who had started to protest. "Not another word about it, Corvin. It's either that or you injure yourself far worse and we end up having to take the foot off," Corvo said with a glance towards the crate that held a simple axe. Corvin had followed his gaze to his brother's favorite crate and knew his brother spoke the truth. He growled his defeat and scooted himself to a more comfortable spot in the wagon. Oh, a little stretch here. We will get a patent on that later today, but I want you to stay off it until we are home again, Corvo said with a finality that even Corvin could not argue with. That did not stop Corvin from groaning about it as Corvo climbed into the seat and once more took the reins before continuing onward down the road. Excuse me, sorry. The patient's family met them outside on a small sheep farm. Corvo climbed out off the wagon and went to speak with the family. Corvin for once stayed put for the time being. When Corvo returned to the wagon, he asked, "What is the situation, Corvo?" Corvin asked him. "Patient has a badly broken arm. Bones are completely shattered from what I can see," he says nonchalant about the situation, shrugging before grabbing the small axe and some bandages. Time to do as I do best and save the patient," he says before walking away to the farm. Watching his brother cross the farm, Corvin watches as the farmer's wife collapses on the ground, crying and begging Corvo to not take her son's arm. Her cries fell on deaf ears from Corvo as the husband comforts her. As Corvo disappears inside the farmhouse, Corvin hears the farmer say, "It's either he loses his arm or we lose our son, Gina." A moment of silence passes before the sound of metal cutting through wet flesh and bones sinking deep into the wood beneath is met with a scream of agony. Corvin's head pops up in the direction of the farmhouse as he realizes what was going on. He looks from the farmhouse to the family of the patient, shakes his head before sitting back with a pained groan. But as he settles in trying to get his ankle somewhat comfortable, a whiff of smoke reaches his nose, and it was not the cooking fire he was smelling. He looked around for the source of the smell when his gaze fell upon the horizon in the direction from whence they came. A pillar of black smoke could be seen. He stared intently at the rising column of smoke, trying to figure out what the cause was. He stared long enough that he did not notice his brother approach the wagon. "Are you daft, or just staring into the blue wall yonder?" Corvo said, chuckling lightly. When Corvin taps his shoulder and directs his gaze to the black pillar of smoke. Well, would you look at that?" He shields his eyes to look at it better. "Looks to be coming from the harbor. Do you think it's that ship?" He asks, mildly curious, to which Corvin replies, "Maybe. Perhaps we can drive the wagon by on the way home and look." Corvin looks at Corvo with simply nods. "We always do like a little chaos." Before a smirk crosses his face briefly, they headed back the way they came. It takes a moment to get back to the port town, but once they do it is complete pandemonium. People running in streets away from the harbor, and the flames quickly spreading. Corvin looks to his brother in surprise as the wagon stops. "You there, girl?" He waves over a young peasant girl. She approaches as she does, so it is apparent she is ill. When she is close enough, Corvo requests that she stop. "What is happening? What is the cause of all this?" He motioned to the chaos. She thinks a moment. Well, sir, a ship came into the port this morning." She shudders visibly as Corvo waits for her to go on. She starts getting visibly upset. "Hey, say they came off the ship like waves upon the shore. A black seething wave." Corvo and Corvin both tilt their heads in curiosity. It was Corvo who spoke first. "What came off the ship, girl?" She looks back to him. "Rats, sir. Waves upon waves of rats." She looks away for a moment, afraid to speak. Corvin speaks to her in a softer tone. Well, softer for his usual gruff manner. There's more, isn't there, girl, than just the rats?" She nods. "There is talk," she lowers her voice, "talk of a new sickness, unlike anything seen before." Both brother gazes intensify as the sound of a new disease. Bloody coughs, fever, blackened toes. She points to a corpse down the street that everyone was avoiding. "They say he had this sickness, that he came off the ship with the rats." She backs up and takes off down the alley nearby. Corvin looks to his brother. Sounds like we could be of some use here," he said as he looked on at everything going on. Corvo looked at his cold, calculating way that had developed over the years. "For now, we will go home. The doctor will want to be informed of this possibility of a new illness. Make sure no one gets near the wagon." He says a bit short, but to Corvin, he could see his brother thinking and processing all of the information during the ride home. Okay, so this is just a side thing, but there are like horror books about rats. I know there's one author, he has, let me look him up, but I think he has like a 6-book series on horror rats, basically. Hold on. I think his name is like Angel Raymond. Is that him? Yes. Yep, Angel Raymond. He has... Honestly, I kind of want to read his books, but I haven't yet. Oh, I'm sorry, 5. You could pre-order book 5 on Rats. Well, it's like Pina Coladas and Rats. And it's like a horror book or whatever. I haven't read it yet. Alright. I'm actually going